All right, I'm back again. Man, just had the last live stream only a few weeks ago, and now I'm back again for another one. Another one. I can hear myself. I'm just going to do a quick phone check. Oh, I got somebody here. Welcome. Welcome. Welcome to whoever you are, or they just left, or, well, I just got to do a quick check because I don't have an audience yet, so I can't, um, I got to check myself. I don't have anybody to tell me if it's working or not. I always have to do this every live stream. Go to my channel. And see if I'm actually live. And I am. At least, yep. Okay, there I go. Cool. Okay, there we go. All right. So always got to make sure, right? That's the nightmare scenario for me. Do a live stream and the sound was off the entire time. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to do what I always do on these. This one's only supposed to be half an hour, but I'll go longer if people have questions. Maybe nobody shows up and I'm just talking to myself, which tends to happen sometimes, but I'm going to do my thing anyway because I really want to get this information out about what I'm doing with this course. And maybe you're not familiar. Oh, somebody popped in. Welcome. I just sent out my 0 hour email like I always do before these to see if I can catch any last minute people who maybe forgot, or I understand a lot of people are that I emailed are just getting off of work. So it's 6 o'clock. You just got done with a long shift, or maybe you're about to go on shift, or maybe you're just chilling. Maybe you're on leave today. I don't know what's going on, but let me know what your status is, the person who's here, if you got my email, or maybe you're just some random person who likes to watch random live streams of people you don't know. I don't know. Let me know though, because I'm going to get started in about 2 minutes. I like to start on time. I don't like to waste anybody's time. It's late for me. Trust me. I've had a long day. This stuff, it seems like you just press the button and go live. Maybe some people do that. I don't do that. I do a lot of prep before, not really about what I'm going to say, but really more about technical stuff on the back end. There's a lot of that happens behind the scenes to make it all look seamless, like I'm just turning on the mic and talking, but that's not what I do. Gotta be professional here. So 2 more minutes and we will get started. It's not looking good though. For about a lot of people showing up. I've got 14 on my email list for this. 14 people got the message, and all of 0 I'm showing I've gotten it or opened it. I don't know, but I'm not gonna let that stop me. I'm gonna keep going. Don't matter. So we got T-1 minute until I get started. Let me get some water real quick. I apologize that I'm not going to be able to share my screen because I just didn't set up the stream that way. So I'm not going to be able to share what I have ready for the course. But trust, it's going to be awesome. Okay, So I'm going to get started because it's getting late and it's almost dinner time over here in Japan. And I'm going to start by introducing myself. My name is Keith Hayden. I'm a teacher and language enthusiast. Those are the two titles I'm going for this live stream, because this live stream is a super, super exciting time, because this is the official launch live stream of my first ever created course I'm calling Groundwork Japanese. So, Groundwork Japanese is my course that I'm going to use to teach U.S. military affiliated members for now. That's the way it's starting. I'll get more into those technicals later, but I'm going to be using this course to help those people of that demographic learn Japanese over here in Japan. And I know the first question anybody watching this is probably thinking, like, why is a black guy teaching Japanese? You're not a Japanese bone in your body. I get it. Trust me. But the reason I'm teaching Japanese is because, one, I'm passionate about foreign languages. Two, and not just because I have one Japanese book behind me. There's many more books back there, different languages and stuff. But I've been learning foreign languages since high school. And my first foreign language was French. I took French in high school, just like every other kid. I'm from Texas, so it was either French or Spanish. Don't ask me why I chose French. I don't honestly remember why, but I ended up taking it, and I liked it enough to when I got to college, I tested into what I thought was going to be advanced French. They ended up giving me Japanese, and super confused, right? French to Japanese doesn't make sense. Well, in the mind of Big Blue, the Air Force, because I went to the United States Air Force Academy, they thought I could handle a more strategic language, they called it, than just a Romance language, coming from English as my first language. So they gave me that language, and I'll be honest, I sucked at it at the beginning. It was really hard. I really didn't have much desire to learn it, and I struggled until I wanted to quit the class, honestly, but I stuck with it, and I ended up staying with it and getting a minor in Japanese from the academy. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. So much so that I ended up going on a homestay program when I was a cadet. So I actually came over here to Japan for the first time as a cadet. I'll never forget it. It was the summer of my first year, or my senior year at the academy. And yeah, just spent 3 weeks as a student. And it was pretty freaking amazing. I loved it. I was young. I came over here, and all I was doing was just learning Japanese during the day, and then at night doing what young people do, just hanging out, doing whatever. So I get out of the academy, and I go on active duty in the Air Force, and I still actually kept up my Japanese. Even though I wasn't stationed in Japan, I didn't come over here until later, but I actually ended up tutoring students in Japanese to just around Vegas. There was a group I remember, and I remember I had like really no business tutoring in Japanese because my Japanese was decent. But I mean, yeah, at that point I wasn't ready to like teach anybody Japanese. So I did that for a couple of months, but I didn't really use it. And then I was fortunate enough to be able to cross train into the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. I became a special agent with them. And because I had such a heavy, or I'd like to think at least that I had such a heavy Japanese background, I ended up being stationed here in Okinawa, Japan for the first time. And man, it was almost like coming here as a cadet the first time. Once again, young, come down here, doing this dream job in this location where now I'm living here. It's not just a short time, and it was amazing. Loved it. Got to do some incredible missions. Got to do some incredible work with the local Japanese authorities here in Okinawa. Had an amazing time. So that was a while ago. I had that assignment, and then I ended up transferring to Hawaii, which Hawaii also has a large Japanese contingent as well. A lot of Japanese people go on vacation to Hawaii. So I had a smattering of instances where I could use it. I'm not going to say I used it a lot when I was in Hawaii, to be honest, but um, yeah. So after that, I ended up getting off of active duty. And for a while, I didn't use Japanese at all. I moved to California and I ended up teaching myself Spanish. That's a whole different story. I'll save for later. But Japanese wouldn't come back online until obviously I found out I was coming back here early last year. And that was almost a year ago that I found out that we were going to be moving back here. So I picked it up again. I downloaded a bunch of new apps and found some old stuff and just kind of dusted it off again. And I was ready to come back here to learn Japanese. So since I've been back, I have started taking lessons with a local tutor here in Okinawa. I've been taking lessons probably for the past 4 months with him pretty regularly. Took a break for the holidays in December, had a long vacation, but then just got back to it last week. So practicing it and then really immersing myself this time, because that's one of the mistakes that I made that I like to tell students or people that, when they hear my story about, wow, you learned Japanese, how did you do it? I like to tell people that it's hard to keep it up sometimes, and it's okay to take breaks, but you're gonna hit these points where you don't feel any good in the language. You feel like you don't know anything. You feel like an idiot because you're listening to some really slow person speaking Japanese, but that's all part of the process. And yeah, so basically now that I'm in this place, I had this idea to teach Japanese to service members, because that's one of the things I remember when I came here before. I wanted to just get in the culture. I wanted to get out there. I wanted to explore Okinawa. I wanted to, all the stuff you see on TV and hear about Japan and anime and the culture and Tokyo and all these places. You want to see it firsthand. And that's what a lot of people do when they come here. But there's also another side of service members that come here and they just kind of close themselves off to the culture and to the people. A big reason of that is the language barrier. They're afraid to go off base. They're afraid to drive further than like places like right outside of the gates, because they're afraid like the further you get away from the base, the less English support is going to be there. And that's generally true anywhere. It doesn't matter if you're stationed down here in Okinawa or if you're up north in Tokyo or Misawa, anywhere in Japan. Like, that's generally the way it is. The further you get away from the base radius, the more it's really helpful to know some Japanese. And I noticed that anytime I would encounter anyone that found out that I speak Japanese and I've learned it for a while, they're like, how did you learn? Man, I wish I could do that. I should have learned. Or, man, that's on my list and I haven't done it yet. And I don't really get to the point where I ask them why, because the conversation usually doesn't go that far, because typically it's like, oh, wow, they're impressed that I know some Japanese, and, they don't really go much further than that. But yeah, a lot of it I know because I've gone through it myself with Spanish, with Mandarin Chinese, with Japanese, with other languages, that a big reason why people don't do it is the overabundance of resources. We have this magical thing, the internet nowadays, and it's just so much stuff. And because everything you need to learn Japanese is there. You got the videos, you got audio stuff, you got whole books. You can find free PDFs everywhere. There's a ton of websites. There's a ton of blogs. There's a ton of apps, YouTube channels, all this stuff, books like the one behind me, all this stuff to help you learn Japanese. But how do you organize it? Where do you start? And this is the biggest problem that language learners of any language have. It's putting it all together. So that's one of the reasons, and I'll reach for it now. I should have gotten it out before, but excuse me. I'll reach back. That's one of the reasons why I wrote my first book. This is my first book, The Tower of Babbling. And in it, I outline kind of and I don't want to call it the Keith Hayden method of learning languages because it's not really the Keith Hayden method. It's more just like um, a splash of my anecdotal story of at the time I was heavily learning Spanish when I wrote this book a couple of years ago. But I wrote it to kind of be the Dale Carnegie how to win friends and influence people of language learning, to where this is the only book you'll ever need if you really want to learn a language, not just like the specific grammar and mechanics, because you can get that stuff online. You can get it in a grammar book. But what this does is help you create your own system of learning a language. Because as a teacher myself, I know everybody learns differently. Some people it's pictures. Some people they've got to get audio. I know I'm a big audio person. Some people they've just got to get their hands dirty and start using it, whatever they're learning. And so I know there's no one size fits all for learners, and that's why I wrote this book. Is because I was like, how could you structure this in a way to where if you walked in from a beginner and you want to become a court interpreter, like that was my goal for many years when I was learning Spanish. How could you get there? Like how could you create a roadmap with this? And so what I did was basically bring together a bunch of different resources and say, here's what you should pick and when and why at different points of your journey. So that's why when I say groundwork Japanese is about teaching yourself how to learn a language, that's what it is really. It's really, I'm, yes, I can speak Japanese. Yes, I have a lot of experience with that particular language, but I'm teaching more a, of a, I'm teaching more of a system. It's more of meant to be like, here's a bunch of tools. You pick the ones that are best for you, and I'm going to tell you the optimal way to use them, but I'm not going to tell you how much you should use them or how really, it's up to you to say, oh, okay, here's my life. I only have 30 minutes a day to study. So here's what I got to do. And my goal is to be able to speak fluently, which is a lot of people's goal, right? They want to speak Japanese fluently. So that I'm basically a guide to say, here's the best stuff because I know a lot of stuff because I've used a lot of different tools over the years, and quality varies across the board just like anything else. And here's how you can organize it best to fit your needs. And I've developed that into a cohort based course. Man, I can't talk. A cohort based course known as the Tower of Babbling Learn Japanese, or Groundwork Japanese. The Tower of Babbling Learn Japanese is the name of the entity that Groundwork Japanese is under. So right now I'm going to put in the chat, because if people watch this later, they can still click on it. I'm going to put in the chat my website for this, TOB How to Learn Japanese.guide. And there you can see the kind of a rough overview of the course itself. So I've got about 12 minutes left. If there's any questions, please put it in the chat. I know there's only one person here, but let me see if anybody else got the message. I'm sorry, it's a bit noisy over here. Nope, at least not yet. So that's okay. I'm going to move on, because I don't want to take up too much time. So the course itself, I've taken many online courses over the past 4 or 5 years, a lot of them. And then, of course, I've taken college classes. Like all of my teaching certification was all online, of course. Well, not all online, but a lot of it was online. And so I've learned a lot it's kind of equal parts as a student and as a teacher of what makes a good course work when you're trying to teach online like this. And so I've adapted a lot of different things from a lot of different places to create this course. So if you're not familiar with the term cohort-based course, what it is take your typical online course. Say it's a Udemy course, say it's a YouTube course, or some courses are on YouTube. And, it's all just videos, and they give you all their projects or all their readings, and then you just kind of go through it. What a cohort based course is, it kind of brings it back to that classroom model that you had when you were a kid, right? When you were a kid, you showed up to first period, and then you had second period, and then, whatever your class was, science, math, whatever, you just kind of went through it. But you had the same people every time, and you had the same teacher. So the beauty of the cohort based course is it kind of combines the best of both worlds. You have that online component to where, okay, it's you're actively doing stuff, but it's not like like your high school class to where, okay, you have to show up every day at 10:50, for math class or English class or whatever. Um, it provides kind of the flexibility, but then you still have the focus and the roadmap to focus your studies of whatever you're learning. And you get the added bonus of having people go through it with you, because that's one of the things I know I've gotten burned out on in all the online courses. And trust me, I've taken a ton of them in the last 3 or 4 years. It's ridiculous how many courses I've taken. Um, but every time you sign up for one of those courses, most of the time you're going through alone. You're just doing it. You can sign up any time of the day, anytime, any day of the year, and you just go at it alone. And I know that this model of the cohort based course is gaining popularity recently in recent years because it kind of brings that human model back into the picture. It's not just about just the content, right? It's not going to be one of those MOOCs, right? Massively online courses, right? To where you can just turn it on anytime. No, there's a component to where there's an accountability component to where you show up and you have an instructor. For this course, it's me, telling you where you should focus your time, what you should be doing. But then it also acknowledges, hey, you're an adult. You have responsibilities. You have a family. You have stuff you got to do. Um, Go do it then, and we're going to meet for an hour twice a week. That's the way it is for this course, twice a week, and for 4 weeks. So it's pretty short. It's basically a 30-day challenge, basically, to help you improve your Japanese to make it better than it is now, right? If you're starting at zero, good. If you're starting at, okay, you're an intermediate student, you've been studying it, maybe you took it in college or whatever, or you learned some on your own, cool. You're going to get a little bit better, and you're going to find some good tools, and you're going to get some exposure, and you're actually going to, since we're here in Japan, you're going to get your hands dirty. You're going to go out there and you're going to freaking use the language, right? That's the point of the course. Let me talk specifically about Groundwork Japanese. I know I'm talking like big picture. So with Groundwork Japanese, the course, like I said, it's 4 weeks long. So in the first week, it's all about introduction. So the introduction, of course, to the Japanese language and what it is, and hiragana, katakana. We go through that. Kanji, we'll start getting into that. But throughout, you're going to be learning vocabulary. Of course, you're going to be learning phrases. Hajimemashite, ohayou gozaimasu, domo arigatou gozaimasu, sayonara. All these, phrases that, the basic phrases that you're probably going to know, that you already know. You're going to be practicing those, because that's a big part of learning a language, is just getting it out of you. Don't worry about perfect pronunciation. Don't worry about, offending a Japanese person. Like, you have to start somewhere, right? You have to start with the language if your goal is to learn it, at least to a decent level. So really, that's what we're going to start week 1. This is that foundational level. Week two takes us to building your Japanese toolkit. So remember, in the beginning, I talked about this is about giving you tools, giving you the buffet, and you select what you want to eat. I like that analogy. So get the buffet, you select what you want to eat, right? I'm not going to tell you what you're going to eat. You know what you need to eat. I don't know what you need to eat. I'm just going to give you a lot of different options. So I'm going to go through all of these different resources, basically ways that you can learn Japanese. And I'm going to break down the pros and cons of each one and tell you my experience, which is a lot of them, right? Like I said, minor in Japanese, tons of online courses, lived here for many years before, and now Um, I'm not going to say I've done it all, but I've done a lot in language learning, and not just in Japanese either, in other languages too. So that's the experience that you're getting should you work with me in this course. So that's week 2, really going and drilling down. That's here are your options. And of course, while you're doing that, you're building your vocabulary. And I have a special thing for military members, of course, testing in Japanese. That's another area that not a lot of people maybe know about, as far as taking like the DOPT and the JLPT. I've taken both of those tests. I've taken the DOPT several times. Um, it's the JLPT is definitely harder, but the DOPT is still a challenging test. So we'll go over that, give some techniques, and I'll talk a little bit about my experience for those that want to take it in that direction. Um, and then week 3 is about executing the plan, basically sharpening the sword, right? Now, week 2, you selected your tools and you got your plate. Now it's time to eat, right? Now it's time to put it into action. And so I'm going to talk about different techniques that I use regularly, that I still use, right? Because I'm still a student of this language as well. I'm not going to, like, my Japanese is perfect. It is not. It is not perfect. I'm still a student of the language. If you find me on Twitter at KH_Waytalane, you will see like I'm still practicing, like, to this day. And I like that. I feel like the best teachers I've met in my life are perpetual students. They're always learning. And I'm like that too. But I just know a lot more than a beginner student, for me to feel confident in teaching it, which I do. So that 3rd week is executing the plan. I'm going to give you a lot of ways that you can practice, ways that you can get better, a lot about Japanese culture in that week as well. So I want to go over the culture and some of these nuances that are different than Western culture, and things that are just like in Japan only, like you're going to find some quirks. And then we cap it off that pretty much last week with COVID pending, right? Because right now we've got some COVID restrictions going on over here, but that's not going to last forever. So when things open up, depending on when you go through the course, I've got kind of a practical, not exam, right? There's no tests in this class. Nothing's a test. I would say everything's optional, but I mean, this course is it's not free. So, yeah, I think it would be worth your time and money to invest. If you're going to invest in this course, then invest in yourself and put in the work, right? Because I expect no less from, when I used to teach high school in California, I expected no less from my 14, 15-year-old students. I expect a little bit more um, from anybody who's military affiliated. And I know you've got it. I don't even probably need to even talk about that, but it should be just a given. And then that final week, I talk about going beyond the course. I talk about, steps you can take to continue working on your own, to continue getting better, to keep yourself motivated, because, a lot of people see like, oh, I'm just going to learn the language and I'm going to be done. It's kind of like a lot of things in life. You're never really done, right? You can keep going. There's levels to this game, and you can kind of keep playing it as long as you want, depending on where you want to go with the language. And of course, mileage will vary depending on the person. Some people will just want to get a few phrases, and then they want to go sing karaoke and go to an izakaya and have a few drinks and have a good time. That's cool with them. Others of you want to learn Japanese literature. You want to go deep into this culture. Maybe your significant other is Japanese and you really want to connect with their family, or you are Japanese and you never really got that far with the language, for some reason, like you didn't really learn it very well or whatever. Whatever the reason is, you want to go deep. That's going to be up to you. And I can help you get there. And I've got some resources on the back end. I have services that I can offer that can help push people, depending on how fast you want to get there, to the level that you want to be at. So that is about 30 minutes. I want to leave it open to any questions. My one person that's been here, shout out to you for staying and listening to me talk for 30 minutes, my voice is just almost dead. But um, I'm I really wanted to explain this and get on here, and because it's something special. I personally, in all of my language studies over these past few years, I've never seen a course like this that teaches really this. Most courses that, language courses are language specific courses. So it's, a person who's a native speaker of that language, whatever it is, and they're teaching their native language, like I would get on and teach English, like nothing wrong with that. That's great. And as a matter of fact, that's one of the tools that I'm going to be pushing you towards, right? Like I told you, my Japanese is not native speech. You're not going to get native level Japanese out of me. And that's one of the things I will tell you as someone who's been learning languages for many years. You need to learn from a native speaker because you're going to learn the correct intonation. You're going to learn the correct pronunciation of things. You can learn about the culture. They can teach you like the mechanics of Japanese much better than I can. What they can't teach you is how to learn the language from a foreigner's perspective because they don't have that perspective. Just like me, like with English, my native language is English. Like just like anybody whose native language is English, things just sound right to me, and I know a fair amount of like grammar concepts and things in English that I could explain that, but there's part of me that really doesn't need to think about English because I've grown up speaking it my entire life. And the same goes for a native Japanese speaker. There's part of them that it's super hard to understand. It's super hard to explain to a foreigner because it's like it's just Japanese. That's just how you say it. It's just how it's done. Ask any person whose native language is different than yours. If you ask them about teaching you Spanish or whatever, they'll say, just watch Spanish TV. That's how I learned as a kid. Like, just watch a bunch of cartoons and you'll get it. Like, some people learn that way as adults, but my point is a native speaker will have a hard time giving you the perspective that I'm giving you. Like, this is very much a foreigner's perspective to language learning. And I have condensed it and structured it in a system that will help you focus, that will help you at least get a little bit better than you are now, and that will help you appreciate the process of learning the language. Because if you can fall in love with the process, then you can just keep doing it. You can just keep iterating. It's just like learning any other skill. You just keep getting better and better at learning. And that's what I've done with languages. Like I have it to where it doesn't really matter what language that I'm learning. Um, I know the system. I know how to put myself back in that student mindset to be like, okay, here I go. I'm going to start this shirt. This is a Burmese shirt. A couple years ago, took a trip to Myanmar and learned a little bit of Burmese at the time. So I know how to put myself in that mindset. That's my point. And that's what I want to help anybody who signs up for this course do. So are there any questions? It's been pretty nonstop. Let me see if anybody else got my message. It's not looking good. It's not looking good. Oh, maybe why my wife just got home. So that's okay. I had one person show up, and that's all right with me. You can go and spread the word, right? They used to leave that one person alive to go and I'm just kidding. This ain't that type of situation, right? To go and tell the others. But in the link in this description of this video, you're going to find the link to sign up for the course. The first cohort is, I'm planning on starting it next Tuesday. I know it seems pretty soon, but I'm ready to go. And depending on, obviously if nobody signs up, then I'm not going to start. That's not going to happen. You got to have a student to start. But even if I have just one, I'm probably going to start. So you're going to want to join in. I'm looking for 10 dedicated people to join this first cohort and just give this a try. And, you know, if you've been thinking about learning Japanese, I know so many people out there who, when I've talked about this idea for the last couple of months, they've said, man, where's the website? And they're not here tonight. But eventually, hopefully, they see this video or something related to it and they jump on it, because I think it's just one of those things. There hasn't been any opportunity. There hasn't been any course like this to where people know what to expect from it. So it is a new concept. It is a new thing. And I'm aware of that. That's why I am mad at my one person that showed up. Even if, I don't know. I ain't mad at that because it's new. And that's why I wanted to have this live stream to really clarify what this is and what I'm doing, and just kind of my background and who it is. So if you go to TOB, how to learn Japanese.guide, what I just put in the chat a couple of minutes ago, you can find the link to the Groundwork Japanese page. And that's going to tell you all you need to know about the course. I'm going to put it in the chat if you're trying to sign up. It's going to tell you all you need to know about the course. It's going to have all the pricing details. And it's going to have the stuff that I talked about, what is in the course, what we're going to go over. And then what's going to happen is, because I don't, I'm a one-man show, y'all. So I don't have a whole team behind me. So I'm doing all of this on my own. So what's going to happen is, after you sign up, after you go through the payment process, then I'm going to get an email, and then I'm going to send you an email with the first steps for the course. I'm going to send you an email. It's going to have all the links to all the materials that you're going to need to go through the course. And then we'll just start. It'll have the dates and times for when you need to show up, what you need to do. I'm really excited because I created my first Discord server. I never created a Discord server, but got a Discord for this class. So, and to hang out in the Discord with the cool kids. Yeah, the Discord is just kind of a thing, right? A lot of people use it for stuff. So I'm using it too. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited to help people learn Japanese. I'm excited to get people fired up about this language that is, and I don't know, it's just awesome that it's changed my life in so many ways to just know a little bit. And that's what I tell people. Like, you don't have to be fluent. That should not be the measuring stick. And I know fluency is kind of the measuring stick for a lot of language learners out there. It's like, oh, I got to get fluent. And that's what all these different products and stuff online are like, oh, get fluent in this much time and fast and whatever. But that shouldn't be your main goal. What's more realistic is the effort and improving your proficiency. Even just being able to say a few phrases well can change your perspective, can make it okay to do more things, to venture further out here in Japan, to make it okay to go to that karaoke bar or go talk to that guy, talk to that girl because they're Japanese and, you want to try and speak Japanese. Nothing wrong with that, So it doesn't have to be the big goal of fluency. That doesn't have to be the measuring stick. So that's really all I got to say about that. So you'll get that type of perspective from me and more should you join this class. I have so many little just best practices and tidbits that I've learned and tips that I've learned from my own studies. I mean, just in fact, today I was, doing some immersion in Japanese, just listening to a podcast, and I just kind of came up with a new system that I was like, man, this would be awesome to share with somebody who's just getting started, because, and over the years, I've refined my tools, my systems so much. And that's part of it too, is being flexible to, obviously things change in your life, and sometimes you have a lot of time, sometimes you don't have a lot of time. It just kind of depends on where you're at. So you need to be kind of flexible in your approach to learning the language. So are there any other questions? I went 10 minutes over, but I wanted to give a chance for anybody who is going to show up to show up. And if they don't show up, then okay, one person clicked. Nice. If they don't show up, then they can watch this video later. So I'll end with contact information, socials, Twitter. That's my biggest presence. You can find me KH underscore way to lang. KH underscore way to lang. I'm going to pull it up now because I have it. I just have it here. So I can just pull it up real quick. So Twitter is my biggest one. I share a bunch of stuff that best practices, what I'm doing, how I'm learning languages, how I'm learning Japanese because I'm here in Japan right now. So that's my main language. And then LinkedIn, I'm actually on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been revamped and it's focusing on this course. So LinkedIn is there. I'm not going to put it in the chat because I don't have it linked up right now. But LinkedIn is there. My website, TOB, how to learn Japanese.guide. It's on there as well. And then I also have a podcast for this as well. It's kind of been on a break since December. I think that's when I did my last episode. So this is January right now. So don't worry, the podcast is on its way back. It's just been a slow start to the year. And yeah, podcast completely free. That's where I give out just some basic tips. And it's just fun. I love doing podcasts. I have a few other podcasts that I do. So yeah, I really enjoy making the podcast. So I'm going to keep making the podcast. So if you're not interested in this course, then hey, just listen to the podcast. You can get some good tips there for me. And I think that's all I've got for here. Oh yeah, my email, Keith@TOB howtolearnjapanese.guide. That's for this class if you're interested in getting more information. As a teacher, they always said, embrace the silence, right? Scary thing, especially online, right? When you don't know who's there because they just might up and leave. But you got to do it sometimes. Okay, well, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much to my one person that stuck with me the whole time. Hey, at least one person saw this whole thing and bore witness to this live stream. But this is, like I said, this video is going to be up there, so I'm sure other people will find it. And if you're interested in this course, please contact me. I'm really excited to get off the ground and to help you get better at Japanese. So, 次のこと、またね。Next time, until next time, right? I will talk to you later. さようなら。